Awesome. So welcome to day 3, or it could be week 3 for spiritual gold, reclaiming your trauma. And we're going to continue along with having a specific emotion that we're targeting. Like yesterday we targeted mad. Today we're going to target frustrated. So we want to see the times that we were frustrated today, and don't gloss over any of the times. Like it might be like, oh, I was frustrated because this wasn't working. That's what it looks like. But we always want to check of like, okay, I'm frustrated. This, and this isn't working. I couldn't get that happen. Okay, well, let's see. Is there a moment of trauma that this is connected to? Like what frustrated you today? Let's just pick a couple things of like, okay, I was frustrated because this happened. Or I was frustrated because I dropped something. Or I was frustrated. And then first you might realize a lot of this you're just unconscious to. Like you're frustrated, you're mad, you're upset, but you didn't pay attention to it. So it might seem like, oh my gosh, I'm getting more mad, more frustrated, more upset, but realizing you're just starting to pay attention to it. But now you can start making changes. So just realize you start kind of digging in a little bit of like, okay, where was I frustrated? So let's say you dropped a coffee or spilled something, or like, okay, I got frustrated about that. Or you got mad, whichever where it is. If you happen to get like something just comes up today and like a mad event comes up, don't skip it. Like, you know, if we're saying like, hey, think of something frustrating, the first thing that comes up is when you was mad, then do mad, because your unconscious is saying like, hey, let's work on some mad. Let's do mad. You know, we're just doing the different emotions to help pull stuff out. But if like you got a whole bunch of mad showing up, then do mad. Be like, okay, I was mad about that. Is there a moment of trauma, you know, connected to this? And you get the age, and then you know, like you get the age of the mad. Let's just continue like, oh, is that 30? You know, for reclaiming my highest good. Right? And pull it in. Let that happen. And then we can go back, and once you got the mad, once you satisfied that, then we'll go back to frustrated. Say, okay, was there a moment when I was frustrated? You're like, oh, yeah, that event frustrated me, right? So they think of the event and what frustrated me. And you ask, hey, is there a moment of trauma connected to this? Right? And you feel, is there a moment of trauma? And you see if you get a yes, you're like, oh, I think I did, you know? And in the beginning, you might just want to play. You might be like, I'm not sure if I got a yes, but let's just kind of do like a time sweep too. Like, hey, is it 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30? And you might get, oh, well, yeah, I kind of got 30. I didn't think there was anything here, but I'm kind of getting something between 20 to 30. And you can go slower, or you can break it down to smaller increments. You're kind of playing where you're at and what you get. Because a lot of times I'll just get the number right away. But it didn't start that way. It definitely did not start that way. I started like, you know, I couldn't even do ranges. I had to do like, you know, age 1, age 2, age 3, age 4, age 5, you know, but it's worth it. I mean, because you're pulling like a very powerful part of your spirit back in, which then it just allows, I mean, once there's more of you here, any type of spiritual work, all the spiritual work is just that much more amplified, because more of you is here. You know, like all these pieces are like not in you. Once they come back in there, it's like imagine if you had like, you know, one person helping you out, right? The difference between having one person, they might be a superstar, but if you had 100 people helping you work on stuff, just how much more you get done. It's kind of like more of you is here. So when you're doing a spiritual work, no matter how good you're getting, if there's more of you, all that exponentially increases. So with that, so we find, okay, what age was that? So I forgot where we were. So we go like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30. You're like, oh wait, okay, I think there's something between 20 and 30. Okay, 21, we can be 20, 21. It's like, oh, I feel it's 21, right? And this is connected to the frustration. So you're like, okay, 21. So all of the moments of trauma connected. You can say at age 21, you can just think about connected to this feeling, connected to this emotion. I full reclaim my highest good. And just allow that, let it see that how it goes in your body. If it was different than the other times you've done it, just notice. You're just taking a moment to notice that I'm feeling something happen in my body. It's like, whoa, I did a clearing, or I kicked off a warp gate. It's doing a bunch of clearings, and I'm feeling it. I'm tuning up to this non-physical world. I'm creating this, right? And it's really good to build that, like, to where you come back and be like, wait, I'm making some change. And then once also, if it starts getting intense, just, you know, be like, because you're bringing in a lot of power into your body, which is going to start working on stuff, which is going to start causing change, which could start freaking you out. So you're like, okay, wait, slow down a little bit. Let me get my sea legs. Let me get my sea legs. So run at 1/2 power, run at 1/10 power. And then also check in of like, you know, do I want to do more? I'm ready to pull in more. And you might be like, yeah, I want some more. And an easy way to continue is supposed to go into like another motion is just see if there's one connected. Because you know that you track back to something and it could like stack up through your ages, or it can go down. It's like, okay, that age 21, is there a moment of trauma connected to that, right? I instantly got a 27. I was like, oh, 27, right? But you can just see if it's a higher or is it lower, or just get a yes, and then you start looking. You can do the ranges, and you're going to do what works best for you. And and it can change. Like, it's not like the set thing of like, I always go by 1 or I always go by 0 to 10. It's just notice where you're at and allow that your unconscious, allow source universe to start guiding you to where you're starting to pay attention and you're in motion. And now source can start guiding you to where you're like, oh yeah, okay, so at age 27. So all those moments of trauma at age 27 connect to this emotion. I full reclaim of my highest good. And you just notice what it gives you there. And you're like, okay, is there another, moment of trauma connected to this? And you can be like, okay, and say like, oh, is it higher? You might like, oh, it's not higher. Or is it lower? It's like, oh, it's lower, right? Because that can help direct you. Like, you're like, oh, is it age? You get age 25. Like when I was doing, I got age 25 right away. But you got it. But that's just the guys show. Like, it's not always the next higher, next higher, next higher. It used to be for me. It used to be like, oh, just rise on up. But it's like wherever you might be, you're like, oh wait, no, it's 25. And then all the moments of trauma at age 25 connect to this motion. I full reclaim my highest good. And you're pulling that in. And notice that, feeling it in your body. And just taking a moment. And then make sure it's not too intense. If it is, just run it 1/2 power. But you don't have to think about this all day of like, is it going, is it running? It's like, let your unconscious do that. Like we're letting our unconscious go into it. It's doing way more than we're consciously feeling anyway. But it helps build that, like, you have a superpower. Your unconscious mind is a superpower, and it can do amazing things for you. It's always doing amazing stuff for you, and it's really filtering what we take in. But the more building that communication, it's such a game changer. It is such an amazing game changer. So for today, focus on frustration. But no, if mad, because we worked on mad, we kind of cracked it open. Your unconscious might be like, hey, I got a whole bunch of mad parts. I want to work on mad. Honor that. Like, well, today is frustration, but man, my unconscious wants to do mad, and it's showing up. I get the thumbs up. Do it. Do mad. And then you can come back to, okay, I'll do frustration. And it could be like, okay, I'm going to do 3 days of mad and then do frustration. The only thing is just skipping. It's just not doing it. But as long as you're coming back, you're doing the work gates, you are progressing at amazing speed. So just know that, trust what you're getting. You're building that communication. You're building that, connecting to you where all the amazing info is. So it's really cool. So today we're going to do frustration. So you do another one. Like if you get tapped out, like, oh, I feel like I've done enough, then stop. Also then think like, okay, recheck back in, like say 4 hours from now. If you've done a whole bunch, did a big old pile of, frustration, or, frustration comes up and be like, oh, okay, let me see if there's a moment of trauma connected to it, right? And you might get a bunch of moments of trauma connected to that frustration. And then that thing you were originally frustrated about, you're like, I'm not really that frustrated about it. But it's just a way in which you're like able to trigger back and reclaim these parts of you. It's just a way to guide you to that other parts, because they're kind of resonating of like, let's get the person frustrated so we can get recognized and get this pulled back into you. So you give yourself, maybe 4 hours. And you can intuitively sense that, but if you need a guide, just then, 4 hours, did some work, 4 hours, can try to get 3 of them in, right? And be like, okay, 4 hours from now, come back. Okay, let me work on trauma, right? And see if, not trauma, let me work on frustration. The emotion of frustration, that's how I'm going to pull these parts in. Did I get frustrated, in the last 4 hours? Is there this moment, recently of frustration of like, ooh, that came to mind. And then we work on that. So hopefully now we're working frustration. We worked on mad yesterday. Tomorrow we'll be working on you got to show up tomorrow to find that out. But you're doing fantastic. This is big energy work. And until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.